Hey, good morning, everyone. It's Naomi Wolf of Outspoken and Daily Clout, and this series, Reading the 1560 Geneva Bible. We had technical issues yesterday, so we're at Numbers 12, and I'm just going to start over and launch right in. So, as you recall, the children of Israel are still in the desert, the Sinai desert, and God is still getting them ready to move ahead toward the promised land. Many of the chapters we've just finished deal with how does this huge number of people move, effectively together. Here's how they organize themselves. Here's who the leaders of each tribe are. Here's who carries different parts of the tent of meeting and the candelabrum and the table where the sacrifices are displayed. And now we're getting into, what I said yesterday, but I'll just reprise, is a real drama, a real human drama, in which there's kind of an attempted coup, essentially, by squabbling siblings of Moshe's. Aaron, who is his brother, who's now the head of the priestly caste, the priestly lineage, and Miriam, his sister, who is a very respected woman among the children of Israel. She led the women in celebration after the children of Israel fled the Pharaoh's army, survived crossing the Red Sea miraculously. She celebrated and made music. But these are very human people with very human stories, and they got jealous of their brother Moshe because God was talking to him all the time and very directly and kind of lifting him up as a leader due to his fidelity to God. And as I said yesterday, speaking as a literary critic, not as a theologian, this is one of those chapters that just makes me feel, purely looking at the text, that something really happened here, that there were real people here having some kind of real spiritual experience with a real divinity, or someone they experienced as a divinity. And just to reprise what I said yesterday, the reason I think that is that this is not a flattering story. Numbers 12. It's very embarrassing, really, that the siblings of Moshe couldn't deal with their jealousy of their brother, and argued about it and tried to kind of take pride of place over their brother. And God had to basically say, I'm going to stop this car right now if you in the backseat don't stop fighting. I mean, seriously, that's exactly what he sounds like. A frustrated dad trying to drive three quarrelsome children, or two quarrelsome kids and one kid who didn't do anything wrong, to a family vacation. And honestly, saying, you all stop it right now. And it's for that reason that it's origin stories of religions and nations are usually very positive if they're mythologies, right? Like Odysseus, did pretty much nothing wrong. George Washington could never tell a lie, told his father that he chopped down the cherry tree. Origin stories tend to, for obvious reasons, propaganda reasons, you could say, cast their founding members in a very positive light. But this is so embarrassing and so human. And the interactions between Miriam and Aaron and Moshe and God are so granular and, again, human and personality-ish, that it just leads me to, it's very difficult to write it off as imaginary. Something happened and they were dealing with someone in the desert that they experienced as a real presence. Whoever that was, I cannot tell you. What it was, I cannot tell you. But God is so in the mix, right? And we, with all of our religions, thousands of years later, Christianity, most Judaism, not Orthodox Judaism or Hasidic Judaism, which, reads the Torah every week, but most Judaism, most Christian sects are not told or taught regularly that God like literally was a character in the action, hanging out, not from above, not unreachable, but literally mediating quarrels between siblings in the camp, right? It's so different from the image of God that we get from organized religion, which doesn't want us to think God is right there in the camp and that we can take our argument with our brother or sister to him and he'll step in, right? Because if we understood that, we would really not have much of a need for organized religion as it now stands, right? Everyone would have a direct line to God, which is what God keeps saying they should have in the Hebrew Bible. Also what Yeshua said, again, before Christianity was an organized religion. All right, so let's just launch right in, and thank you for joining me. And I do apologize for the technical problems I had yesterday. I think I know how to avoid them in the future, and I'm going to share my screen, and we'll just jump right in with the Geneva Bible. And so this is, I'm going to scroll down, as you can see, this beautiful text to Numbers 12, and you can see the pre-Elizabethan writing, which I told you one of the mysterious things about this project is I learned how to read this kind of text in Oxford when I was like 22 years old, thought I would never need it again. And here I am, just like I thought I'd never need my Hebrew, and here I am using it regularly. So Aaron and Miriam grudge against Moses. Miriam is stricken with leprosy and healed at the prayer of Moses. And that's the subheadline, which you remember these editors placed in this edition. It is not in the text. And now the text begins. Afterward, Miriam and Aaron spoke against Moshe because of the woman of Ethiopia whom he had married, for he had married a woman of Ethiopia. And they said, "What has the Lord spoken?" And they said, "What has the Lord spoken, but only by Moses? Has he not spoken also by us?" And the Lord heard this. But Moses, was a very meek man, very humble, above all the men that were upon the earth. And by the Lord said unto Moses and unto Aaron and unto Miriam, "Come out, you three, unto the tabernacle of the congregation." And they three came forth. Like, okay, you three, I want to talk to you. Then the Lord came down in the pillar of the cloud and stood in the door of the tabernacle and called Aaron and Miriam, and they both came forth. And he said, "Hear now my words. If there be a prophet of the Lord among you, I will be known to him by a vision, or will speak unto him by dream." This is how I communicate with prophets. "My servant Moshe is not so, who is faithful in all mine house." He's saying Moshe is not a prophet. I don't need to speak to him obliquely. I can speak to him directly. "Unto him will I speak mouth to mouth," one-to-one, "and by vision, and not in dark words, but he shall see the similitude of the Lord, the appearance of God. Wherefore then were you not afraid to speak against my servant, even against Moshe?" And the Lord was very angry with them and departed. Okay, so you understand what God is saying. He's saying, this guy, Moshe, is faithful to me, the most faithful to me in my whole house, meaning the children of Israel, the family he's building with the children of Israel. As a result of his fidelity, I don't have to appear to him in a vision or in a dream. He can see me, and I can speak to him face to face, mouth to mouth, right, directly. As a result of this situation in which his fidelity results in my appearing directly to him, he can see the appearance of God, right? What a privilege. Why are you not afraid to speak against him? Like, shame on you. Thus the Lord was very angry with them and departed. Also the cloud departed from the tabernacle, and behold, Miriam was leprous like snow, and Aaron looked upon Miriam, and behold, she was leprous. She was stricken with leprosy, which is white. Then Aaron said unto Moshe, Alas, my Lord, I beseech you, lay not the sin upon us which we have foolishly committed and wherein we have sinned. Let her not, I pray you, be as one dead of whom the flesh is half consumed when he comes out of his mother's womb. Then Moshe cried unto the Lord, saying, O God, I beseech you, heal her now. And the Lord said unto Moshe, If her father had spit in her face, should she not have been ashamed 7 days? Let her be shut out of the host 7 days, and after she shall be received. So Miriam was shut out of the host 7 days, and the people removed not. They didn't get up and leave to another location till Miriam was brought in again, meaning reunited with the community. So that is what the Geneva Bible says, and I just want you to kind of notice a couple of things. I brought these up earlier yesterday. One of them is there are many, many, many places in the Hebrew Bible in which it's clear that this story and these laws and this God are not just for the ethnic children of Israel. And here's another one. Moshe, the father of what later became Judaism, the prophet, the great leader of the children of Israel, is married to a non-Israelite woman. Cush is Ethiopia. I mentioned yesterday that to this day can sound a little racist, but in modern Hebrew, Black people are often referred to as Cushim. I don't think it's intended to be racist, but it means Ethiopian. And so, and there are ties of ancient Israel and Ethiopia that go back, we know, certainly to this wife of Moshe's, but also to King Solomon later, who is going to be visited by the Queen of Sheba, also Ethiopian. And we know that there's a group of Ethiopians who believe that they are descendants of the original children of Israel, and they protected a Bible, a version of the Old Testament that is different from received Bibles filtered through Europe. So that's kind of amazing. And a lot of them have been repatriated to Israel. I mean, what a story, right? But the brother and sister of Moshe are kind of being racist, and they're saying, why did you marry an Ethiopian lady? Why didn't you choose a wife from among the children of Israel? And God is not having it. And so I just want to call your attention to this because it's yet another example, like all of the mentions of Gerim, the stranger in your midst, should be joining you in circumcision, should be joining you in festivals, should be included in the laws, right? The Noahide laws, the 7 Noahide laws, they're not exactly the same as the 10 Commandments, but they're for everybody. So, I just want to stress Judaism, rabbinical Judaism in many ways after the exile became more insular, right? But in the original Torah, it's very, very, very inclusive. And God isn't just saying these rules, these laws, this beautiful way of living close to me is only for people who are ethnically descended of this, tiny group of people. It's really a gift for the whole world. A little bit different responsibilities of the children of Israel and, people who are not members of that kind of template community, but Moshe Rabbeinu, Moses, our rabbi, our teacher, was married to an Ethiopian woman. The other thing I want you to notice is the human kind of greed and avarice that that Miriam and Aaron are showing here. Aaron is the head of the priestly clan now. He has lots of importance and respect, and also We have Miriam, who, as I mentioned, is, very respected in the community. And by the way, one way that Judaism or early Judaism is different from a lot of the tribes and worship communities around it at the time, and even, will remain sort of different from post-Pauline Christianity, is that women are relatively respected and have roles as, prophetesses, as leaders, as judges, as you'll see, Dvorah, as characters in a narrative. I mean, how rare is that? That doesn't happen in Western literature till much, much later. So, I mean, detailed characters, not kind of broad brush characters. And they have legal rights, and they have, there are responsibilities toward them. So that's something to notice. It's an interesting difference. And actually, the influence of Greco-Roman culture, in which women have no legal rights pretty much, and, our kind of wives are kind of less respected than courtesans, sort of demoted women, the role of women in the early church. I'm not being critical of anything. I'm just saying it's a difference, right? Even the Jewish women described in the Old Testament, had very important roles in a lot of respect. And, Yeshua listened to them, whereas Paul basically said, influenced again by Rome and by Hellenism, said women should not have that kind of role in the early church. So let's now, and then lastly, Miriam was exiled for a week, and God is saying, if her father spat in her face, meaning if she did something so outrageous that even her father was horrified by her and rejected her and made her, to be ostracized by the community, she would be ostracized for 7 days. So he's saying basically he's her father, and that she, he's as upset with her as a human father would be. And so the punishment should be comparable. She should be kicked out of the community for 7 days. And of course, being ostracized, kicked out of the community is like the worst thing that can happen to you, especially in the desert. But even emotionally and spiritually, no one wants to be kept apart from the kahal, from the host, the community. So now let's go ahead and read the Hebrew, and I will share my screen so you can see the beautiful Hebrew. And we've got almost 1,000 people joining us on a Sunday morning, so that's really, really nice. So let's see what's going on here. Bamidbar, which means in the desert. So v'tdaber Miriam ve'Aharon beMoshe, and Miriam and Aaron, and the tidaber is feminine here because it's a woman speaking. Miriam and Aaron about Moses, al odot ha'isha hakushit, about on the kind of news of the woman from Ethiopia, asher lakach, which he took, meaning as a wife, ki isha kushit hi, because she was an Ethiopian woman. Ve'omru, and they said, harak ach beMoshe, is it the case that only in Moses, diber Adonai, God spoke? Halo gam banu diber, look, also in us he spoke. V'yishma Adonai, and God heard this. It's so interesting, like God, God is listening. God, you can't just be a jerk without, God listening and hearing. It was much more understandable to bear this in mind when God was kind of living in the camp with you, right? As he was living in the camp with them as a pillar of cloud in the day and the appearance of fire at night. The Ha'ish Moshe, and the man Moses, Anav, this is an interesting word. The root is ani, with an ayin, not aleph, which is I, but ani. And it's the same word that is translated in, via the Greek in the New Testament, in the Beatitudes, when Jesus is saying, "Blessed are the meek," or, "Blessed are the poor of spirit." It's ani, at least in Matthew's Hebrew. So ani can mean um, poor in resources. It can mean humble, right? And in this context, it means humble. Anav me'od, Mikol, he was very humble. From Mikol ha'adam asher al pnei ha'adama, from all the men that are on the face of the earth. Vayomer Adonai pitom, and said God suddenly. That's why, it's moments like that, pitom, that I feel like this is a real story. Something really happened here, because that suddenly, like, it's not narratively necessary, but it's the kind of thing that if something really happened, you'd be like, whoa, God is suddenly saying, yikes. Vayomer Adonai pitom, and God suddenly said, El Moshe ve'el Aharon, toward Moses and toward Aaron, ve'el Miriam, and toward Miriam, Tzeu shlochtechem, go out, you three. And I laughed yesterday because this is so much like a dad saying, okay, you three, I want you, to go to your rooms, go out, you three, El Ohel Moed, toward the tent of meeting, Veyetzu Shloshtam, and the three of them went out. So siblingish, right? Vayered Adonai ba'amud anan, and God descended in the pillar of cloud. I noted that amud has the root of la'amod, to stand, so it's something standing. It's also a pillar of cloud. Ve'ya'amod petach, and that word is repeated, and it stood petach ohel, at the opening of the tent. Vayikra Aharon u'Miriam veitz'u shnehem, and God called Aaron and Miriam, and they both went out. The two of them went out. Vayomer Shim'una, and he said, meaning God said, listen, please, dvarai, to my words. Remember, davar means word and thing, right? It's one of those magical words in Hebrew. Im yeneviim, if there is a prophet, if there are prophets, Adonai b'mar'a elav, God will be, mar'a alav, will manifest himself visibly on him, et vada b'chalom adaberbo, in a vision. I will speak to him in a dream. In a dream, I will speak with him. Lochen avdi, not thus, my servant, Moshe, Moses, bechol beiti ne'emanhu, in all my house he is faithful. Pe el pe adaberbo, mouth on mouth I will speak in him. Umar'a velo bechidot utmunat Adonai, umar'a, and I'll manifest myself to him visually without riddles, utmunat Adonai, and a picture of God, yabit, he will behold, he'll glance at, he'll look at. Umadua lo yiretem ledaber be'avdi b'Moshe. So why were you not afraid to speak negatively about my servant Moses? Vayechar af Adonai bam vayelech. God displayed anger in them and went away. And the word is really interesting, yelech. Lalechet is to walk or to go. So they've translated it, he left, but it's literally, he walked away, lalechet. I just think that's interesting because of the physicality of it. It's like he was there and he walked away. It's not like, ooh, where's God? I kind of feel God in my heart. It's like God was there yelling at them and then he walked away. He's mad. All right. Ve'ha'anan sar me'al ha'ohel, and the cloud departed from over the tent. Ve'hine Miriam metzora'at kasheleg, and here's Miriam afflicted with tzara'at, which we've seen before. It's a plague. Ve'yapen Aharon like snow, like the implication is white as snow. V'yapen, and turned Aaron el Miriam, Aaron toward Miriam, v'hine metzoraat, and behold, she was afflicted with this plague. By the way, it doesn't say exactly leprosy. Later translators have presumed that this is a plague like leprosy. Vayomer Aaron el Moshe, and God, Vayomer, and spoke Aaron toward Moses, Bi Adonai, Alna, Tashet Aleinu Chatat, please, in me, do not hold us accountable for our sin, Chatat Asher Noalnu, which we have foolishly sinned, Ve'asher Chatanu, for we acted foolishly and we have sinned. Don't hold it against us. Alna, don't please. Now this na is an intensifier. So al tihi kamet means don't let her be like a dead person. But al na is an intensifier. Na is begging. Alna, you can hear it, right, in the language. Don't please let her be like a dead person. Asher betseto merechem, this is a sort of different translation, which in her going out of the womb, and they've translated it for since she also came out of our mother's womb, merechem imo yachel chatzi besaro. It is as if half of our flesh is consumed. So it's quite a different translation than the English, right? Which said something like, she's like someone who's been leprous from, the time of coming out of the womb. Aaron is saying here in Hebrew something much more moving and kind of beautiful, like a big brother or a little brother. It's not clear who's older. Please don't let her die. Don't let her be like someone dead, because this plague is so serious. It's, pretty much you're dead if you have it. Because she came out of the same womb as you and I did, our mom's womb. We're siblings. And so if she dies, it's like half our flesh is dying. Very moving. She's flesh of our flesh. Don't kill her. Don't let God kill her. And Moshe listened. Again, big brother, little brother, we don't know, but this is his sister. Veyitzak Moshe, and literally Moshe shouted. It's translated cried out, but it's literally like shouting. Vitzak Moshe el Adonai, toward God, lomar, to say, el na rafa na la. What a beautiful sentence. I'm going to read it again. Listen to the music. El na rafa na la. God, please heal. Rofe, doctor her, heal her. Na, again, please, la, to her. So you've got that na twice in one phrase, begging. El, na, God, please. Refa, na, heal, please, la, to her. And you can hear all that internal rhyming. What a magical language or magical text, right? What are the odds that God, please heal her sounds like El na refa na la? It's like a song of begging, right? Vayomer Adonai el Moshe, and God said to Moses, Ve'aviha yarok yirak, if her father were to spit in her face, bepaneha, were to spit in her face, halo tekalem shiv'at yamim, wouldn't she be humiliated for 7 days? Tisager shiv'at yamim, she should be, lesager is to close, she should be like closed away 7 days, michutz lamachane, on the outside of the camp, ve'achar te'asef, and after you can like collect her again, after she can be readmitted to the camp. Tisager Miriam, and so Miriam was closed or confined, bichutz lamachane, outside the camp, shivat yamim, 7 days. V'ha'am lo nasa, and the people didn't travel or carry anything. Nosea is more to travel. Ad ha'asef Miriam, till Miriam was kind of collected back into the camp. Ve'achar nis'u, and after they traveled, you hear the repetition, ha'am, the people, me chatzerot yachanu, from chatzerot, ve'yachanu, and they camped, bamidbar Paran, and they camped in the desert of Paran. So that is the Hebrew, and I'm going to stop the screen there. Let's see. Lots of comments, lots of people reposting the stream. Well, really not true. Mickey Blue Eyes 58. Thank you for bringing up your concerns, Mickey Blue Eyes 58. But it's kind of good that you're raising this, because I realized, like, why am I? Over a year ago, I had the intention, or the kind of motivation, out of nowhere, I didn't even understand it, to read through the 5 books of Moses in Hebrew and in English with the Geneva Bible, and kind of explain what are Jews, right? What do we believe? What is the Old Testament? And I didn't know why. Like, I wasn't even that interested organically, but the world has changed. And it's funny, I do think God obviously sees history, forward and backward and inside and out. He's creating history. I started this project before there was an incredible, terrifying wave of anti-Semitism all over the world, and especially in the West. There wasn't, like, I didn't know, like, isn't this kind of not necessary? We're assimilated. It's fine. Who needs this? When I started. But here we are in the middle of Numbers, so well into this text. And your question, Mickey Blue Eyes, which I will share, is, I'm not trying to, like, call you out or scold you or anything. There's no such thing as a stupid question, but it's an example of I think, why I feel like I was put in this role to share with the world who we really are, right? Because there are a lot. I didn't realize it at the time. I thought it was a thing of the past, but I've seen recently, oh my goodness, there are so many misconceptions and myths, and honestly lies about the Jewish people. So the Jewish people, says Mickey Blue Eyes 58, did not sustain fidelity and often worshipped satanic figures. So just a note, Satan isn't historically accurate to use in this context, because Satan is a being, shatan in Hebrew, which comes much later chronologically. There isn't a mention of Satan in any text in this period, right? It's before Satan, right? Now, you're quite right. Throughout the Hebrew Bible, some Jews kept, or they're not Jews yet, the children of Israel kept, some of them going off to worship Baal or Asherah or Malach. I don't know what the Israeli flag of Remphan is. I've never heard of it. But Israel, like, the state of Israel didn't exist yet, right? This is the tribe of Israel, the children of Israel. They have no state. They've never had a state. They've never had a government. They're a wandering, nomadic, set of tribes that don't have any land to call their own, or a flag, right? I mean, they have, I guess, banners of the tribes we read in the last chapters, but I've never heard of the Israeli flag of Remphan. And Revelations 3.9 does refer to false Jews. Unsure, because I've read it. However, I just want to kind of note that there's false everyone, like the story of the Old Testament and the story of New Testament and the story of Revelation, right? And the books that follow the 4 Gospels frequently talk about 2 groups, faithful servants of Yahweh, whether Jewish, whether children of Israel or followers of Jesus, and unfaithful, right? And it's the sheep and the goats, or Jesus talked about, winnowing the wheat from the chaff. over and over, Jesus said, some of you are going to be faithful and some of you are not. And so that's also the story of God trying to establish his presence among the children of Israel in the Old Testament, you know, as we saw at the foot of Mount Sinai. And Mickey Blue Eyes, if you weren't with us when I read that chapter in Exodus, I really recommend that you go back and watch that video or read that chapter in the Hebrew Bible or in the Geneva Bible. Some of the people were faithful and gave their rings and their jewelry to create the Ark of the Covenant, right? And some were unfaithful earlier and worshiped the golden calf. They were wiped out, right? So the remnant were faithful. And this is a process that keeps happening. God keeps, putting kind of tests or tasks before the children of Israel, and some do them and others don't. And God is very clear. If you do the tasks that I set for you and then follow my commandments, you will be blessed, and your children will be blessed, and your offspring will be blessed forever. And if you don't, I'm going to wipe you off the face of the earth. You'll be forgotten. You're like the grass. I mean, he's very, very clear. So where I'm going with this is Jesus said the same thing. Some of you are going to follow me and some of you are not, and I mean, look at Judas, right? He was following Yeshua and then he betrayed Yeshua. So this is the dynamic in every group of people that Yahweh is trying to enlist, right? Follow me. So I just want to say, anti-Semitism, which I think has a metaphysical role in the world, like it's so crazy that it arose all at once, just like the, fantasy about COVID and about the vaccines kind of cultishly arose all at once. But now anti-Semitism is re-arising all at once, right? And it tries to cherry pick those moments in the Hebrew Bible or in the New Testament and say, see, it's the Jews. It's not the Jews, my friends. It's the human condition, which God demonstrated in the Old Testament. And then I think God demonstrated in a different way in the New Testament. Some people are following God and some aren't. And, God is very, very clear. And Yeshua, who was a Jewish guy preaching mostly to Jews in a Jewish context, right, was saying the same thing. Some of you are following God's law and others are not. And God doesn't like it, when you don't, and you're going to be wiped out. So I just want to say that to you very clearly, please don't cherry pick. It's not historic and it's not accurate. The human condition is that some people follow God and others don't. And God in each of these sacred texts says, I will bless the people who follow me and I will, do away with the people who don't. So I hope that's clear, and I'm not, okay, let's see. The flag reference is that there is no Star of David and that the star on the Israeli flag has no relevance to David. My friend, like, I don't even know what to say to you. I mean, it's like, I don't want to argue about this. I don't know anything about it. You could do that with any flag. You could say the founders invented a symbology with stars and stripes, and it's really dodgy that they started with 13 and now there are 50. You could do that with anything. But just hang out with us, and why don't you just listen to the texts, and I will explain, what Jews have been reading for the last 3,500 years, and the practices they've been following. And at the end of that time, this is evidence, right? If you still think, we're kind of innately bad, I've done everything I can. So I think this is much more a story about the human condition. I mean, look, the most respected people among the children of Israel couldn't get over, in this chapter, their jealousy of their sibling. So let me know if you have any other questions, and we're going to move on to see how the Revised Standard Version translates that, because it's so common that the modern translations don't have anything to do with the original Hebrew or the very good Geneva Bible translation. So Miriam and Aaron spoke against Moses because of the Cushite woman whom he had married. Interesting. The Revised Standard Version says married, whereas in the Hebrew it's taken, right? The implication is that he married her because he's a faithful servant of God, and God wants people to get married if they're going to have intercourse. But it doesn't say married in the Hebrew Bible. They've kind of cleaned it up. For he had married a Cushite woman. Well, he took her in the Hebrew. And they said, has the Lord indeed spoken only through Moses? Interesting change. In the Hebrew, it says in Moses. So that's really a big difference. By saying through Moses, it's again one of those mistranslations that seems to set up a priestly or theological hierarchy when it doesn't exist in the Hebrew. In the Hebrew, God is speaking in each of these people. All right. The implication is he can speak in any of us. It's not, oh, this is a messenger, selected by God. It's like, here God is in Moses. Anyone, can house God essentially in the Hebrew. Has he not spoken through us also? Again, in the Hebrew, it's in us. And the Lord heard it. Now, the man, Moses, was very meek, more than all men that were on the face of the earth. And I'm going to say again, a more accurate translation is humble. But Christian texts do tend to, how can I put this, mistranslate in the direction of not military, very mild, very passive. Even when the original doesn't merit that. I mean, I think Yeshua, for instance, was very confrontational and very brave and very courageous, obviously taking on the greatest military power on earth. So I wouldn't say meek is a good translation, because oni is not meek. It's poor, but it's more like humble, not arrogant. More than all men that were on the face of the earth. And suddenly, that's correct, the Lord said to Moshe and Aaron and Miriam, come out, you three, to the tent of meeting. That's correct. And the three of them came out. And the Lord came down in a pillar of cloud and stood at the door of the tent and called Aaron and Miriam, and they both came forward. That's correct. And he said, hear my words. If there is a prophet among you, I, the Lord, make myself known to him in a vision. I speak with him in a dream. Not so with my servant Moshe. He is entrusted with all my house. Nope, that is not the Hebrew. It's not the Hebrew. And once again, the mistranslation privileges falsely a religious hierarchy. He's entrusted with all my house. Nope, not it. The Hebrew says, not so my servant Moses. He is faithful out of all my house. He's the most faithful servant out of all my house. So God is not saying, I've handed over to this proto-priest all my house. He's not saying that in the Hebrew. This is a total mistranslation. With him, I speak mouth to mouth, clearly and not in dark speech, and he beholds the form of the Lord. In the Hebrew, it's more like he sees the picture of God, which is more direct, even more direct. Beholds the form is like the language kind of has it at one remove. Oh, there's a distant form, I can behold it. No, in Hebrew, he sees the picture of God. God's right there, Tmunat Adonai. Why then were you not afraid to speak against my servant Moses? And the anger of the Lord was kindled against them, and he departed. In the Hebrew, it's just he was angry and he left. And remember that I said he walked away in Hebrew, not departed, which is a little, again, the language here is trying to make God cloudy and misty and kind of hard to see. Whereas in the Hebrew, very concrete. God is right there. He's walking here. He's walking there. He's mad. It's not like, a distance of language or vagueness. And when the cloud removed from over the tent, behold, Miriam was leprous, as white as snow. And when the cloud removed from over the tent, in the Hebrew, it's when the cloud lifted up from over the tent. Behold, Miriam was leprous as white as snow. And Aaron turned toward Miriam. In the Hebrew, it's like Aaron faced Miriam. And behold, she was leprous. And again, I'm just going to note, leprosy is not necessarily tzara'at. It's a plague, and it's a bad one, but we don't know for sure that it's leprosy, just saying. And Aaron said to Moses, "Oh, my Lord, do not punish us because we have done foolishly and have sinned. Let her not be as one dead, of whom the flesh is half consumed when he comes out of his mother's womb." So this mistranslation echoes the mistranslation of the Geneva Bible, whereas in the Hebrew, the two men who are brothers of the sister are saying, don't let her be as one dead, because if she dies, it's as if half our flesh is consumed and we share our mother's womb with her, right? So it's a much more feminist sentence in the Hebrew than in the English translations, mistranslations. And it's also, they mistranslated, "Oh, my Lord, do not punish us." In the Hebrew, it's "don't hold our sin against us." Don't hold us accountable for our sin. Always when there's a mistranslation about punishment, the modern English translations make God more punitive than he is and more irrational than he is in the Hebrew, where he's really not punitive and not irrational. So this mistranslation is doing that as well. Let's look at line 11 in the Hebrew. And Aaron said to Moses, "Please, my master, do not hold us accountable for our sin, for we acted foolishly and sinned." And Adoni, I've explained that word before, my master, it's translated in the Hebrew. It really means my sir, right? It can also refer to God, Adonai, my Lord, but it doesn't have to. So in the English translation, the Revised Standard Version, they're saying, "Oh, my Lord, do not punish us," as if Moshe has the power to punish, which he doesn't. He is just a messenger of God's. Whereas in the Hebrew, it's, "Please, my master, do not hold us accountable for our sin, for we acted foolishly and sinned." So they're basically saying, talk to God on our behalf. But in the Hebrew, Moshe does not have the power to punish, metaphysically. So again, mistranslation giving too much power and authority to the middleman. Constant theme. And in the Hebrew, line 12 is, "Alna tihi kamet," don't let her be like a dead person, "asher betzeto merechem imo," for she also came out of our mother's womb, veyochel chatzi besaro, and it's as if half our flesh is consumed. So you hear the difference in the Hebrew from line 12. In the mistranslated English, "Let her not be as one dead, of whom the flesh is half consumed when he comes out of his mother's womb." That's not what the Hebrew is saying. It's so moving in the Hebrew, line 12, Aaron is saying, "Hey, this is our sister. If she dies, it's, she came out of our mother's womb, same mom. If she dies, it's like half of our flesh is going to be consumed." And Moshe cried to the Lord, again, very kind of fancy language in Hebrew. It's he yelled, he shouted to the Lord, "Heal her, O God, I beseech thee." I just want to note again, because it drives me crazy. Line 12, "thee, thou." No, this fake, distanced, historicized language in speaking humans directly to God isn't in the original. "I beseech thee." People haven't spoken that way since, 1640 in English. No, there is no historical difference. There is no archaism, is the word that is used in textual studies, in the Hebrew. Moshe is speaking to God exactly the way he speaks to the children of Israel, his brother and sister, in the same language, contemporary language. And there's no, and especially the I, you, there's no kind of distancing of language. He's like, hey, you, God, I beg you. There's no thee and thou, or Hebrew equivalent. But the Lord said to Moses, if her father had but spit in her face, should she not be shamed 7 days? Interesting mistranslation. It doesn't say but spit in her face. Let's take a look. If her father were to spit in her face. Yep. Let's see, 13. Vayomer Adonai, God said El Moshe to Moses, Ve'aviha yarak yarak. I know why they said but, because rak is only, but they threw that in because it really means if her father spat spit in her face. Halo tekalem shivat yamim. Would she not be humiliated for 7 days? So the gross mistranslation, I really don't like it, minimizes how upsetting it is and how awful it is for one's father to spit in a woman's face. If her father had but spit in her face, that is not there. Should she not be shamed 7 days? That's not what it says in Hebrew. It doesn't say she should. It says that she would. So it's kind of referencing an existing standard rather than saying, I, God, think, her father should spit in her face and she should be shut up. If her father spat in her face, she should be shamed 7 days. No. So they've translated, let her be shut up outside the camp 7 days, and after that she may be brought in again. Is that what it says? Let her be. She should be confined for 7 days. Yes, that's fair. So Miriam was shut up outside the camp 7 days, and people did not set out on the march. Again, a mistranslation, set out on the march. They've martialized it. It's really, they didn't travel till Miriam was brought in again. After that, the people set out from Hatzerot and encamped in the wilderness in the desert of Paran, I would say, desert. So that is it. Now you have all three. You can hear all three for yourselves. You can hear the difference. And once again, I'm just going to say, don't believe the modern translations. Go to the Hebrew or go to the Geneva Bible, or ideally to both. I'm going to say again that the original is much more concerned about a woman. It's much less humiliating of a woman. It's much less patriarchal. It doesn't assign, God's house and all its authority to Moshe. It just says Moshe is a very faithful servant. It doesn't militarize the movement of the children of Israel. They're still just a bunch of shepherds at this point. They're not an army. And so those are a lot of mistranslations. And they all tend, and there's no thee and thou to God, right? It's like, hey, God, please heal my sister. So in all those ways, the modern English makes God distant, arbitrary, punitive, patriarchal, hostile to women, and privileging or assigning powers and authority and, resources to the middleman, to Moshe as a proto-priest. That doesn't happen in the Hebrew original. He is, a guy like other people. The difference is that he is faithful. He is a faithful servant, not that he's elevated, not that he has a special job above everyone, not that God speaks through him. God speaks in him, just like God speaks in everyone else. And if, we too are faithful, God, the implication is, speaks in us. Okay, we have just about run out of time. Let's see if there's any other comments. Nikki Blue Eyes, interesting, says there is no real anti-Semitism. Christians are more persecuted globally, but who is controlling information? Oh my goodness. I wonder if we're important enough to have actual trolls. I'm not trying to give you a hard time, Nikki Blue Eyes. As Immanuel Kant, I love the handle, says, It's not a competition, bro. It's not a competition. Christians are being massacred by the thousands in Nigeria, even as we speak. Christians and Druze are being massacred in Syria. No one pays attention. Palestinians, Muslim and Christian, are being killed by Hamas as we speak. They're like, hate is hate, and it manifests in different ways. There's anti-Christian hatred, there's anti-Muslim hatred, there's anti-Jewish hatred. All of it is bad, right? It's all bad. It's not a competition. These ways of demonizing people are linked. My job with this text is to, share the Torah with you. That's it. I don't have a more extensive job than that. But I am always honest with my audience. And I, started this discussion noting that I am aware of a flare-up of anti-Semitism around the world. Believe me, I fully expect, an escalation of anti-Christian sentiment. I mean, we've had hundreds of years of Islam, Christianity, and Judaism being at war with each other. In those eras, Judaism didn't have a state, didn't have an army, was completely at the mercy of Christian and Muslim nations. I'm talking about the Middle Ages to the Spanish Enlightenment, which is also the Spanish Inquisition. But, we've had about 400 years of peace, largely in the rest of the world outside of the Middle East, with some exceptions, right? A lot of exceptions of Muslim terrorism. But it looks like these three religions are heading back into a state of conflict. I'm not going to say that's not good. It's not good to butcher Christians. It's not good to butcher Muslims. It's, all of these religions, these Abrahamic religions, preach peace. And all of them, properly understood, worship the same God, the Father, and descend from Abraham. I mean, there are huge commonalities, and they take their core ethics from the same root. So I'm not going to get into a competition about that. It's all bad, right? Don't hate people. Love your neighbor. And I guess we can end there, unless you guys have other questions. I hope you found that useful and helpful. It's bright and early on a Sunday morning. I think this is a great way to start your Sunday. And I want to thank our sponsors. You can get the incredible collagen that Brian and I use every day at getnativepath.com/daily clout. You can get 45% off, incredible bundle deals. Fantastic product, keeps us healthy in these times of conflict and battle. And you can also, we also want to thank our sponsor. Sorry, I'm just reaching for my script. American Alternative Assets. Gold has doubled, in the last decade or so. And if we had bought our gold, Brian and I often discuss this, a couple of years ago, it would have been a very good move. And America Alternative Assets believes that there are 7 indicators of financial instability, a big crash, that are blinking red. So they really want you to subscribe to the bellwether, which will let you know kind of what to do in that situation. And you should go to American Alternative Assets, cloutgold.com. You can get a discount. And remember that when you support our sponsors, you support us. Please go to Daily Clout and subscribe or donate. Please go to Outspoken on Substack, subscribe or donate. And I love El Maldonado, a good old friend who I want to end on that. Everyone is made in God's image. Every person reflects a part of God. Even the unfaithful can't help to reflect a part of God, even if not aware. You won't believe this, but literally the rabbi at Chabad said exactly that yesterday. He said he was pretty cheerful about the state of the world. And I'm like, how can you be so cheerful? And he said, because, evil's being revealed and good is being revealed. No one can hide anymore. But also his belief is no matter how benighted and ignorant and cruel, everyone has that spark of the divine. And it's a matter of all of us doing mitzvahs, commandments to bring the kingdom of heaven to earth, as Yeshua would say, or to bring Mashiach, as Orthodox Jews would say, as Hasidim would say. It's kind of the same goal, even if you think the messiahs are different, it's really the same goal. And I really want to stress that. And, Islam properly understood also has the same goal: love, peace, justice. All right, everyone, please support me. And Rhett Bierman says, good morning, Naomi. Thank you for breaking down modern mistranslations from Hebrew. Truly fascinating. I recently ordered a Geneva Bible 1560 with Apocrypha from Amazon. Mazel tov. That is a beautiful note to end on. Thank you. And again, if you can't afford the hardcover, you can, it is online, genevabible1560.com. And I will keep sharing it with you here. Thanks, everyone. See you next time for Numbers.